Thanks for tuning in to the Trap House Podcast. Now a quick word about our sponsors. We have Duke Traps. Check out DukeTraps.com. Duke manufactures over 40 different models of cage traps, coil spring traps, long spring traps, and body grip style traps. Also, my personal favorite, they have the Duke Dog Proofs. They come powder coated, perfect on the line. Check out DukeTraps.com and you won't be disappointed. We have J3 Outdoors, maker of the Hags Bracket, all American made products. Check out their website, j3o.com, and you will not be disappointed. They have everything from your bait holders, your spring clips, your tail hooks, the universal locks, the list goes on. Especially if you're a water trapper, you want to check this website out. That's j3o.com. We also have Top Lot Stretcher Company with us. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. Top Lot Stretcher Company handles all your wooden stretcher needs, along with pelt handling supplies and trapping supplies. Check out their website at toplotstretcherco.com. And representing all the girls in the trapping world, we have Trapping Girl Inc. with us. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. They have awesome apparel for the females. There's also kids apparel, lures and baits, things you could use out in the field. Check out their website, trappinggirlinc.com. And there's only one true way to start out the trap line in the morning, and that's with a nice hot cup of coffee from traplinecoffee.com. Check out their numerous collections. They have Trapline Blend, a Kodiak Blend, and my favorite, a Cherry Red Blend, all available at traplinecoffee.com. Also, be sure to check out Weeby Knives. That's weebyknives.com. They have skinning knives, fleshing knives, all your fur handling tools. Check out weebyknives.com. Need a place to sell your fur? Check out Groenewald Fur and Wool Company. They're the largest and most experienced direct receiver of wild fur with over 50 plus years of experience. Their website is gfwco.com. And last but not least, Hoosier Trapper Supply. Check out our website, HoosierTrapperSupply.com, home of the Top Dog Predator Bait and Jet Fuel Predator Lure. We got all your trapping needs, trapping scents and baits, deer scent, and apparel. Check out HoosierTrapperSupply.com. All right, welcome back to the Trap House Podcast. Jake's with us. We don't have Jake on the show too often. So
Nope.
We're going to talk about our recent Texas trip. We just got back a couple days ago. And it was a good one.
Yep.
We had a blast. Let's dive into it, really. They're similar but different from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what our numbers turned out to be overall, but it was a good week.
Mm-hmm. We were off on coyotes, and we'll kind of get into that. But everything else was pretty much, we caught more badgers, we caught one less cat, we caught a lot more raccoons. It was kind of one of them things where...
Yeah.
Dealing with porcupines.
Yeah, dealing with porcupines.
Yeah.
So,
one of the sections of the ranch was what we ran the previous year, so we kind of knew, our way around that a little bit better and where we caught previous year and kind of set on those locations. So just comparing notes. And then the whole other section that we've never even been on, so that was all new, fun experience. So, but
I guess we'll address, Jake was able to go this year, first time in
A couple of years.
at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, finally finished up school a year ago, May, and
Yep.
so hopefully you can continue to go with us.
Glad to be back in the groove.
Yeah.
Felt weird not going the past couple of years, so.
Yeah.
And then get to go on probably one of the coolest trips I've been on.
We've been on a lot of good ones, but this is definitely,
It's
it's
just so different.
yeah, and it's so nice to just get on. This ranch is giant. I mean, we've only seen just a small portion of it.
It's larger than the county we live in.
Yeah. So they sent us to areas where they've had issues, and we're learning this too, and we're learning more of this idea of coyote control on cows, So the heifers are first-time mothers, and they are the ones that are not. They're learning too. So, a mature cow, they can handle themselves. They normally the ranch managers and cowboys trust that they'll not have an issue so much, and they can generally defend themselves from predators, coyotes specifically. So the heifers are the ones that they are the most concerned about and that need the most control. Prior to us getting there, they had lost 15 heifers just on the one section that we were on. So that's pretty significant. Obviously, very expensive to lose that. So
Yeah. Very. What section was that?
that was
The first one.
the second one.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
and he had lost some over on the first one too, but I didn't hear the numbers on that one.
So our first section, driving around on the Can-Am, that was about a 10-mile loop.
Mm-hmm.
Give people an idea. And the second section we talked about, that was about a 30-mile loop. And that is all off-road Can-Am. You really can't even do that with a truck if you wanted.
No.
So
No.
just give you an idea size-wise of what we were running.
Yeah, and we were spread out, like you said, mileage-wise, but we're also as far as like how diverse some of the terrain was. You could be in wide open prairie style, just flat, just road intersection style type trapping, and it dips off into these canyons down into the sandy bottoms of river bottoms that are dried up a little bit.
What they call it, the dry.
They call it the dry because stuff doesn't
Yeah,
because of the sand content, it doesn't hold water. So the only thing growing there is some sagebrush and just some stuff that doesn't require the water that more the prairie ground would require in terms of the
Right.
grass or whatever. So
and there'd be some cottonwoods and trees mixed in there, and down in those canyons. So it's pretty cool.
mm-hmm.
So a little bit of both worlds, really, style of trapping. What'd you find surprising, Charlie?
So I think the thing that I learned the most on this trip, and I've always known it, but this trip really was a very obvious example of the 30-mile loop that we ran. They had coyote problems in there with the heifers, so that was where they wanted us to concentrate on. But they had already moved the cows out of there. So when we got in there, there was a lot of coyote sign, and including a dead cow that they had put out. And normally those are just like bait station magnets for coyotes. To give you an idea, on the other section of the ranch that we were on, they had a dead pile. And the first night we caught 3 coyotes there, and the next night we caught 4 coyotes on that dead pile. So they're very significant, and if you can locate one, it's like a done deal. You're going to catch coyotes.
Yeah.
So we set this up. The cows were not in there, and the first check day, we didn't catch a coyote. Even though there was some sign there, we didn't catch a lot of sign actually, but it was old. It was a little hard to read because of the sand. But anyways, we didn't catch a coyote on that dead cow, which should have been like a given.
Yeah.
Fish in a barrel type
Yeah.
situation.
And it kind of continued that way in that section. So I think that was the thing that really hit home, is that once those cows are out of there, those coyotes move on. Another thing we faced was warm weather, which obviously they don't require as much food to stay warm, or they're not burning as much energy. So we ran into that. We had days in the low 70s, upper 60s, pretty consistently, other than a couple days, and that definitely affected it. So I think the coyotes moved out. I think they had kind of changed their food source. There was lots of kangaroo rats or mice and just all kinds of small critters that they could easily access. So
Yeah, that was definitely, we could tell at several sets that mice and whatever type of gophers and things that they had running around were very active. So I'm sure coyotes, bobcats, and stuff like that were out picking those off fairly easy and not having to travel very far to get the job done. So yeah, we were kind of up against that.
right, in that big loop, that's a lot. That's 30 miles on a side by side.
We were spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
Yeah, on the 30 miles we're spread out. So I mean, I think the home range idea on coyotes in January trapping is not as prevalent as it is in early fall by no means. I mean, that early fall the home ranges are very established. This time of year they are in the process of establishing home ranges, so there's a lot of overlap. But yeah, very spread out. Texas too, you can trap mountain lions. So mountain lions. We didn't catch one. I'll tell you.
saw a sign.
We saw some.
Wait
sign.
a minute. We're supposed to have a teaser for next season. There
Caught
might
7.
be a mountain lion. Maybe.
So, which is cool about Texas. So mountain lions are considered, they're non-game. They're a non-game animal. So they have no protection, and there's plenty of them.
Yeah.
There's in the place we're staying. There's one mounted on the wall that the Cowboys killed a couple years back, and
So yeah, so
they're there.
Yeah. If we continue to go, I imagine someone's gonna end up benching one and getting a hold of one,
yeah. I mean,
which will be cool.
yeah,
So-
statistically, when you get out 100 plus sets out over essentially running 40 plus miles, statistically at some point we're going to hopefully catch one. So
Yeah.
even if it's not a specific mountain lion set, I think the chances are good that that we may catch one. So,
Yeah. What was the coolest part, Jake, for you?
It's that country.
Just being out
Yep,
there. Yeah.
You're up in those flats, and next thing you know, you go around the corner in a side by side, and you're going down some valley, and it opens up like Grand Canyon or something. There's just you just look around, there's nothing, and all of a sudden you're in the roughest area you can be in. I mean,
Yeah.
places you wouldn't want to walk.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's cool just seeing the different wildlife too,
Yeah.
We saw mule deer pretty much every day. We saw antelope a handful of times.
Mm-hmm.
There's some cool footage that we captured of this little buffalo herd running around destroying the fence. So that's 14 buffaloes out there. So that's cool. And I think we saw, what was that? We saw a golden eagle.
Yep,
Mhm.
a couple times.
yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then,
They have these big black ravens. They look like giant crows. So
Yeah, they're a true raven.
Jake actually looked them up, and there's not a whole lot of areas that they come to.
No, most of it was in kind of the southern half of Texas that they would come for their breeding season or whatever. But then there's one little dot kind of up north, close to where we were, that they show up, and it's got to be because of the just the landscape.
Right, right.
It's one of the only areas up there that isn't just flat. It's got some contour to it, so
Right.
it's pretty cool to see those.
mm-hmm. And I always like seeing the jackrabbits because, here in the east we get the little cottontails, and these things got long legs, long ears, and they fly. They're pretty cool to see out there.
Roadrunners.
Roadrunners, yeah. So the wildlife is just cool to be out and amongst all that too. A highlight, though, I think for me, I would have to say is catching that quadruple. We'd never done that, so that was pretty cool. In a lot of situations, we probably wouldn't even pit that many traps, but to know the amount of sign that we seen in the dead pile that the cows had passed that they dumped there, we knew the odds were good to catch, a high percentage. So we set, 10 traps in that area, and like you said, triple the first day with one running around that was just there.
Yep.
The next day was quadruple with another one running around, and then a couple singles after that as the week went on. But
Yeah, we definitely knocked them pretty hard in that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
In
definitely
that
knocked
area.
them.
Yeah.
Took care of the issue that they were having for sure.
And the amount of sign that was on that spot was
And it
unreal.
it reeked of coyote urine, so they had it all marked up. I mean, it was just
It looked like you ran over it multiple times with a really aggressive tread on a truck or something, but it was all tracks. It was all dug up.
yeah.
It just
it
reeked of coyote. I've never seen anything like that.
So we sat pretty close to the carcasses, the cow carcasses. Not directly on them, but pretty close to them. And then we also set some that were probably, I don't know, 15 to 30 yards away. And as it was interesting, and I don't know, one occurrence or one experience on your part doesn't mean that that's the fact or that's the way it's going to go. But as the catch started to dwindle, we started picking up the coyotes in the further sets.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake literally had one in well, you did too, in literally a dry creek bed.
And a little wash that was maybe 3 foot, 2 or 3 foot wide.
Yeah.
Just little pinch points.
Right, and both of those spots caught coyotes.
Yep.
But it was later in the week. We had 11 check days, but it was later in the check days that those were picked up. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Then the Badgers, me and Charlie in Kansas, he caught one, I caught one. Last year, I caught one in Texas. It was just like one here or there on other trips or whatnot. This trip, man, we
Hammered them.
had 5 Badgers.
Right.
And two of them were really big. Like, Jake's going to probably mount the one he got, and I'm
Yep.
going to mount one. They're just awesome, man.
Yep.
I know some trappers complain about catching them, but I mean, if you get
was
nice late season badgers, well, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
And all the fur is on the sides of the body because of just the way they're built and then going in and out of holes. So all the fur is basically on the sides of their body. But and when when a fur market's decent, badgers bring good money. So if you catch badgers October, November, probably even mid-December, they're not that great, but they prime late. So, we're catching them at the very best time to be catching them. So I think it's interesting over the years, New Mexico, Kansas, in Texas, if we intentionally set for a badger, we don't ever catch. It's unusual to catch one. So this trip, Jake literally saw a badger running across the high prairie.
Yeah.
High desert, high prairie, whatever you want to call it. And we set up for that one, and that one did materialize.
Yeah, how long did it take? A couple days before it came back?
I think it's like 4 or 5 days.
It was at least 2 or 3 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like next day or.
No, it was a few days. And
And
it could have been a different one, but
the other badgers that were caught, the other 4, we just we'd caught them in coyote sets.
yeah, they weren't purposely set up for badger.
And we targeted badger in other spots and they didn't connect. Just
Right.
like our previous experience. But
Yeah, they like if you'd see a bunch of diggings from badgers or
there was a lot of sign everywhere.
yeah, you'd set it up and then you didn't catch anything. And it's of course badgers make themselves very well known. If you're within sight of the set and you got a big mound of dirt, you know that you caught a badger,
Yeah.
and most likely he's going to be in there. So we've never lost a badger. Not that we're experienced badger trappers, but they're once they're in there, they're in there. So
Yeah, that was definitely cool. Can't catch them here in Indiana, so it's nice to go on a trip and do that. Speaking of all that digging around and stuff, there's one spot we stopped to look at, and it was towards the end of the trip. I think it might have been the last day when we were leaving. We saw some major diggings going on in the road. It's like, man, I wish we would have found this earlier. Then we get a little closer, and it turns out it was a bunch of hogs.
it was wild hogs. Yeah.
Hogs just tearing the roads up bad.
Destroyed it.
And Charlie picked one up. Was it your set? You caught one?
Yeah,
or-
on the same property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same property, pretty far away, but
Held
we
it.
haven't caught a hog in a trap since Mississippi,
Yeah.
and that's all on YouTube as well. People are on.
That was several years ago. Yeah, this one we caught a hog. It's like a 40 pound hog in a trap. Of course, it was not happy. He kept charging us and whatever. And fortunately, the rest of the pigs weren't around. I'm not sure what happened if he's just by himself, because we had 2 other sets that were open that could have caught a pig, and they weren't even disturbed. So
No. Yeah, that was a pretty hot location. Caught a coyote.
Triple
You guys
on.
tripled on coons, and then a hog.
Yep.
No, I don't know.
I think that was it.
That was it.
That
Still,
was
that's
it. But yeah,
quite a bit of remakes
Hot
at that location.
Yeah, a hot spot of non-targets.
Yeah. Well, the coyote was still,
Yeah.
but
and I think you always have these sets that when of course, you wouldn't set a trap if you didn't think it wasn't going to catch. So
right.
you always got these locations where you think this is a done deal. There's sign. We're going to catch coyotes. Of course, we ran into that in the one property where the coyotes had already moved out. But in the other section that we did pretty well on, we still had traps that didn't connect with coyotes, which was, the one that Jake had in the middle of the road, and then that one. And
I thought that was a really good set. Made sense. It was fresh.
And the intersection prior to that, we didn't connect. So
there's a couple traps messed with, but that was it.
Right.
As far as targeting certain animals, trying to think, how many bobcats we get? 4?
We just caught 4. Yeah.
At least 3 of them were in targeted bobcat sets, right? And then one happened to be in a coyote. I think that's how it played out.
The first one, I'm not sure there was bobcat sign. It made sense.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Right.
But everything else was set because there was bobcat sign there.
Right. They weren't particularly what you would call a coyote set because it was, was it more in thickets or more in the brush or more in the whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, they could easily take a coyote, but they were set with the intent of catching a bobcat. So.
Right. Yeah, I even lured differently for cats. I used finicky feline in situations like that. Great lure. Even on coyotes, we've catch so many on that. But, each one I think had finicky feline that I was targeting.
Mm-hmm.
The only other one I can think of that I really set for, I saw that cat track, and it turned out just pulling out a double on porcupines, so that's not the cat we were looking for.
Yeah.
But that's always neat when that comes together. You see a cat track and be like, all right, we'll give him a few days, see if he circles back through.
Right.
It could be a big tom running or female or whatnot.
Yeah.
Even the cat you had next to the barbed wire fence, that was right. We saw the track. It was like,
set it up.
We almost didn't set that. I was like, well, got set on sign. We went ahead and did it, and it paid off.
Right. And it was a female, and we did. I think we only had one more check day or 2 more check days.
One.
Just one. So one more check day after that. Of course, we didn't connect, but there have been at least 3 times over the years, and maybe 4, where caught a cat, and then cat one the next day. And normally it's the female you catch first, and then you catch the tom.
Do that fairly. I mean,
it's happened.
Things it's fairly often.
Yeah, I mean, statistically, yeah. So, and then of course, we caught that double a couple years ago in Arkansas.
Yep.
On bobcats, but it's bobcats. There's always this debate on how well they smell. Are they sight hunters, or do they smell lure and bait like everything else? And I think they actually have a pretty good nose, because we're not big, gaudy bobcat trappers. Like some guys just got everything thrown at that cat to attract him. And I guess because we trapped Arkansas public land for so many years, that's just like, for one thing, you can't use anything natural there, and secondly, if you're on public land, it's just like saying, well, here's my trap, come steal it. So, I guess we've just kind of never been
minimal.
Yeah, never been crazy about getting too crazy with flagging or whatever. We do use some Christmas garland and some stuff like that, but we're still not particularly crazy about using it. So we I guess my point being, those cats got a pretty good nose, and we definitely catch them that way. So
I think they're just generally on their own agenda, and
I think that's the biggest thing you're up against. Yeah,
they're just
do what they want when they
don't
want.
care if they cooperate or not.
Yes. A cat is just like your cat at home or your friend's cat. They just do what they want to do when they want to do it, and that's what you're up against. It's not that they're particularly wary of a trap like a coyote, or wary of a location. It's just a whole different animal, and I'm not. They just don't. They're just not. They're not born scared like a coyote is. So.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I tried to focus the cat sets with the finicky feline, and I bounced back and forth on the bait the whole trip. It was top dog, mighty dog, top dog, mighty dog, back and forth. If it was coyote sets, I was mainly looking to use jet fuel. That's all I knew with the three of us, we would spread out and do quite a bit of lures, but I focused, majority of my sets were jet fuel, because I knew you guys would be having the other stuff covered.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty much using Mighty Dog the whole time, and
You used quite a bit of black gold, didn't you?
yep, Black Gold, Vixen here and there. You can't get away from Vixen.
Right.
And some long distance. I was using a very, very small amount of long distance.
Yeah, the weather was super mild, but
Yeah.
he just, you know what it's like that? Just dip a stick into it like
Yeah.
almost like a weed
It was like
straw.
a blade of grass.
Yeah,
I
What
was just the tip of it.
yeah, and that's enough.
Yeah. And then I was using some Tree Hugger Terminator too. Got the idea from Jared and never really thought about using that way, and I caught a handful of stuff on it.
He was actually using some stump kicker too.
Oh, was he?
Which is
The
not
tall
even
lure?
which doesn't even have beaver caster in it. So, and he
Just
used our
sweet-
he
sweeter
was using
smell.
our muskrat lure and catching coyotes because he's always on this page where, if you got something completely different,
Yeah.
that was Jared and Matt that we had their videos up a couple weeks ago. So.
So yeah, I tried that, and I think that second badger I caught was on that even.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
universal tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time I switched gears was on remakes, where if I had to freshen up the set out. I love Coyote Carnage on remakes.
Yeah.
I used some Vixen. Those are probably the two that I used. And then I used some Seducer, Predator Seducer.
Yeah.
That I had in my bag for remakes, though. Yeah, that skunk, obviously being so warm, you don't need a bunch.
No,
but,
it was-
but
The smallest amount I could possibly use.
bobcats love skunk.
Mm-hmm. It'd be
So just to have just a dab of that
Mm-hmm.
could make a big difference. This striking their curiosity to actually act on it instead of just walk by or whatever they plan on doing.
A lot of those areas were just so wide open. I mean, they're generally going to run the road, which is what we were trapping. But just something to get out there.
Yeah. So what, we go back to the cat and their sense of smell, and then I'm going to go to something else. But the we have a cat at home, and if you open something up that he particularly likes the smell of, he will show up in the kitchen. I mean, the one that sticks in my mind if we're making nachos or whatever, black beans. For some reason, you open that can of black beans up, and he would come in thinking it was time to eat,
Yeah.
and he'd be in the other room.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So my point is, he could smell it, and his senses are definitely not as refined as a wild animal by any means, or as keen. So
So,
So try some black beans in your dirt hole.
Yeah. yeah,
New lure coming out.
just something that gets on their page,
yeah,
gets that one particular guy going. And
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and this kind of goes in from learning from last year in that area, the same area that we trapped on the ranch. What spots hit that didn't, and vice versa from the previous year. There was that one mesa where we trapped around a dead pile. We caught a triple the first day or something.
a year ago.
A year ago, and a couple on the backside of that mesa as well.
hmm
And there was cows in that area, so to speak, and of course the dead pile, and we circled that mesa and had success. This year, no cows to speak of in that section. They were much further away, and
No dead pile.
no dead pile. But we went ahead and set the trails that that were there from the previous year, and goose egg.
Yeah,
Right.
we got what we call one coyote.
One coyote.
Yeah,
I did miss a cat
That's
the
right.
first night.
and we did figure that we were along the edge of this, that rocky bluffs and stuff, and so we figured a good location for cats.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the reason we kind of continued to leave traps there and just to wait out a cat. And Jake missed one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, we circled that up with a few traps. Then I kind of walked away and found a cattle trail that kind of was in the area where that dead pile was the previous year. And I don't think that ever even got looked at. There was nothing
yeah,
in that section. So,
Well, 150 yards from that, we were set on the road with a ton of coyote sign. looked like a highway, and we never connected right there either.
Yeah.
They just weren't.
Yeah.
There weren't cows in there, and they moved on.
Yeah.
Again, to get on our other point.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I think that is very key. See what livestock's doing, whether it's cow or sheep or whatever the situation is in that big open country that you're working with. Where there's a lot there for them to work
Right.
off of, and they're complete opportunists.
We talk about location, and I've mentioned this numerous times, but we bumped a couple 3 coyotes on this trip. In other words, we driving our side by side, and we'd bump one or whatever, and they just go running across the prairie. So if you were just going to set out in the prairie, where are you going to set? I mean, that's like a needle in a haystack where that coyote's going to run. And since we bumped him and he went running across the prairie, he may never run that side of that track or that route again. It was
Right.
just because we startled him and he's running, and that's it.
Survival instinct kicking in, and
Right. So my point being is, albeit they're not on the road all the time, they do travel the roads, and that we have that as a narrowed down spot. So we know, and we're talking ranch roads, then they're dirt roads, but we know that those are easy points of travel for them, and that is way more defined of a location, particularly if you got intersections, you got tracks and droppings or whatever. That's way more defined of a location than just to set out in the middle of the prairie. You could set, if you got a really good cattle path or cattle trail, those will work, but even still, an intersection of a cattle trail with one of those dirt roads would be better. So
Right.
you just got to work off of that idea generally, instead of just going out in the prairie and setting a trap, which is probably going to be unsuccessful.
Right.
So, and I talk about this all the time, but it's just one of those things with locations, and we're all. When we're in Arkansas, we mention this all the time. People always say, "Set on sign, set on sign." Well, yes, but in Arkansas, there rarely is any sign.
Mm-hmm.
There is rarely sign. So we just set up locations that look good, set up locations that have produced in the past, and that's what was successful, and that's what produced the coyotes. So,
Yeah.
and the cats or whatever.
It's so rocky
Right.
there that
Rocky and usually dry.
Mm-hmm. If you find some droppings, a lot of times it seems like they're washed out and faded to white, just old. Like,
Right.
it can be difficult.
So sometimes your sign is a good location, even though there may not be tracks or droppings. So
Right, that makes sense. We do need to give a little shout out to our friends that invited us down, Ben and John. I don't know how much you want to be on the camera, so we won't even tell them your last name. You guys can be disguised, but shout out to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
yeah,
It's fun. We have a good time. We eat dinner every night. Once we get back, take care of business, skin whatever needs to be skinned, get in the freezers, and there's no TV, none of that junk. We just sit around the kitchen table and somebody takes turn cooking, and that's it.
yeah,
Get up and do it all over again tomorrow. It's like paradise.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if you
hope-
like
it's a cool
trapping,
experience.
somehow you won't regret it. Just try and work out some sort of
and this
trip where that's all you focus on is trapping.
right.
And it's fun when you trap like that instead of worrying about the day to day. It's definitely a little mental break and just focus on having a good time outdoors.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
And have another group of guys comparing
Yeah, comparing notes. We
what's working, where they're at, and just things like that too.
yeah. They were on a completely different section of the ranch. This ranch, like I said, is absolutely enormous, and
and they did really well too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we just scratched the surface of it. So give you an idea of the way these big ranches work for those of you that are like us that are out here in the east. So the ranch is really big, and there's a ranch manager on roughly anywhere from 15 to 25,000 acres. So there's a number of different ranch managers on this ranch, and then there's one ranch manager over all of them. You know, like it's just this hierarchy system. So we would get sent to, you know, different sections of the ranch. So
Yeah. Different
based on-
headquarters.
yeah. So it's a whole other world, and it's a world that it's got the cowboy mystique and everything going on, and I mean, they're still branding, they're still roping, and all of that. So
Out there practicing their roping outside of where we're staying every day. And
yeah,
just-
it's a lifestyle that some may think doesn't exist. Well, it's alive and
Yeah.
well. It exists. So so it's kind of cool. So
Texas. Yep. So yeah, everyone tune in to what I don't even know what season this is going to be. We've been doing this so long.
13, season 13,
Whew.
Lucky 13
Hoosier Trapper Outdoors season 13
starts in August.
starts in August, and that's when we'll start airing all the stuff we've been talking about today. So
We got some other plans for next season too. We're going to probably involve a few more other trappers and you know, do some stuff like that too, like we did with Matt and Jared. Everybody seemed to like that, and you know, we'll go run around with Matt and Jared for a day, but we're going to provide them with a camera to use when we're not there. So, you know, assuming they're in agreement. So then we got one or two other guys potentially lined up. So yeah, it was kind of exciting to think about. So
Yeah.
let me. I mentioned it on the last show. I'll mention it again. So Indiana's in the process, and this pertains to Indiana, but I think a lot of people out of state can find it interesting as well. Indiana has struggled getting a bobcat season. We could have easily had a sustainable bobcat season several years ago. It did not happen. So just literally from politics. So public outcry. Essentially the governor says make it go away. So we have the proposed bobcat season going through our legislature. So far, it's moving along the way it should. It's basically going to require the DNR to have a season. So once they sign this into law, which ultimately the governor has to do that, then the DNR will be required to have a season. So they're not going to be under the public scrutiny of, well, they're all of the reasons that the non-consumptive users or antis, whatever you want to call them, they can't come in and say, well, you don't have enough data, you don't have this, you don't have. They're just going to say, hey, we're required to have a season. Now they can do with it as they think it's necessary, but we're not. It is naive to think that we came this far, we have a season, and the DNR isn't going to allow for a species to be trapped or hunted to the point where they're going to have to take the season away. It ain't going to happen. So modern wildlife management has been proven very successful over the years. So anyways, we'll see how this plays out. So far, it's moving in the right direction. It's got a long ways to go yet, but hopefully we have a season. And I think a lot of people can relate to this that have wolves in their area. That's a very contentious issue. Black bear is another one. Grizzlies, of course, are another issue as far as delisting. And it's one thing that a lot of states or a lot of regions deal with. So
yeah, it's exciting.
So yeah,
I think it's looking very promising.
At this point, yeah.
We're much further than we were a few years ago when this type of stuff was brought up and pretty much got thrown out pretty quick, just because of all the public outcry.
Right.
So
one last thing I want to mention: it's getting that time of year. People are thinking about what to do with their fur, and I know a lot of people just catch fur and have it tanned, whether they take it through a taxidermist or they send it directly to a tannery. Whether you use moil or whatever. The fur sales are coming up. A lot of state fur sales are coming up. So here in Indiana, we'll have some fur taker sales, and we'll have also the Indiana State Trapper Association will have some fur sales. You can check out websites for that information. The Groenwald will be running, or has been running routes all for a big part of the season already. They will continue to run routes. They'll be here at Hoosier Trapper March 2nd, I believe. And then Fur Harvesters Auction Company will be running routes to pick up fur. and you can check out their website to see if they'll be in your area. Same with Groenwald. You can check. Groenwald will write you a check on the spot. Fur harvesters is basically picking up, consigning the fur to an auction, and then you get paid once it sells. So that's a little bit different. But don't forget the state Trapper Association fur sales. Those can be quite good depending on who shows up to buy. So,
and they're fun.
yeah, they're fun because you're
To hang out with all the trappers, see what everybody else caught, and
right.
you know,
It's
trade
definitely
notes.
a social event. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time. All right, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, we'll catch you next time.